I would love to hear more about your story and also about UAP. Lisa, would you like to begin?
Well, I've spent the last 33 years in the aviation industry, firstly as a pilot, but in most recent years I've been working as a safety consultant, risk management. I'm also a mother of 3 boys, 2 younger boys with special needs, and recently my ability to work has been affected due to the mandates. So all of the last 2 years, what I've seen going on here in Australia has made me decide that I want to step up and put myself forward as a candidate. So I'm fortunate enough to be the United Australia Party candidate for Fairfax.
Wonderful.
We can look at Craig Kelly, the leader of the party. So when he was a member of the Liberal Party, he was a lone voice in Canberra to question the COVID-19 response, and that's part of the reason why I took notice of him, because I thought, my goodness me, the courage of one single man to be in the halls of that great building with both Liberal and Labor federally sort of singing to the same tune. And he said, something's not right, and I need to speak out about it. Well, what happened to him? He had to leave the party and go it alone. I suppose as a mum, I think about the quality of people that are running our country. And what I'm seeing from our current government, they're not the people I want making decisions for my children's future. You know, I have these lovely boys. I've got a 22-year-old that can't attend university anymore because of mandates. But I think about his future and what opportunities does he have under this current way of governing our country. And then my little boys that are obviously with the special needs are very sensitive and suffer anxiety. It's even so much so that in this current environment, my 13-year-old will curl up in the floor when his older brother's got to leave. Sorry. And I've actually got it better than most people. It's just that in this current world with the uncertainty, and children feel it, having his older brother, who he absolutely adores, leave to go off to study and come back again is a lot for him to deal with. And then I think about our courageous leader of the United Australia Party and the video that he just shared of his beautiful son who has Down syndrome. And I know that that's a man that knows everyday struggles, while he's put himself on the line, and his family too would have all made sacrifices for him to stand for the Australian people. And that gives me a reassurance that we have the next Prime Minister that has a heart for the people and the courage for the people. And it's that thought that gives me hope for my children. And I say enough. I mean, for every single parent, your children are worth putting number one for us, you know, and stepping out for something better for your kids.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. As a mother as well, it's so hard to comprehend a future for our children with the state the government is in at the moment. Well, Lisa, you're in Fairfax, and in 2013, Clive actually won that seat of Fairfax, but only after it was recounted. Tell me a bit more about that story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a great story, and it's really relevant to this next federal election coming up. Clive did a talk in 2014, and I watched the video of it, and it was really worthwhile. It was at the National Press Club, and he was discussing what happened when he was elected in 2013 with his votes. And it relates back to the Australian Electoral Commission and legislation they have in place that recognises a two-candidate preferred.
Sure.
And I didn't know this, and what they do is they put two candidates' names in an envelope, and at 6 o'clock, or when the booth closes, which is 6 p.m, the electoral officer opens up that envelope, and it has the names of two candidates that have been pre-picked by the Australian Electoral Commission. And those are the votes that they need to focus on counting, the primary vote being the number one in the box. Now, the problem is, they might not be the one that the majority of the people have picked. But because the majority of the people have picked a person that doesn't sit in that letter, their vote is not being looked at. And that's exactly what happened to Clive Palmer. It's only because he had a volunteer, which we're all out there pushing for volunteers now to do, is called a scrutineer. So we get every day, people just in there, volunteers that want to guard democracy, and they watch the vote being counted. It's actually a really unique experience if people haven't done it before.
Yeah, interesting.
I like to call them guardians of democracy, and I think it's one of the most major roles. So we are looking for lots of those people because we want to ensure that every Australian, whether it's in Fairfax, Wide Bay or Fisher, or every electorate that we have somebody standing in, their vote is counted correctly and the result is true to what the Australian people want. But it was this gentleman that noticed what was happening to Clive's vote and called time out, which we're allowed to do. Very empowering to be able to call time out on the election voting, and made a call. And it was just the threat of federal court action that had them stop the vote and recount. And of course, when they recount, Clive's primary vote put him in the number 2 position, and then of course, plus the preferences, he won the seat. Now, because we know one of the leaders within our party, the chairman of our party, knows how the system works, we know how to guard our democracy and make sure everyone's vote counts.
It's a great reminder as to where is the power.
Yeah, exactly.
Voting's an interesting concept because often the Electoral Commission, we have this phrasing of two-party preferred, and it's right across the media, it's everywhere. So you'll hear on ABC at night, on election night, and Anthony Green will be there and he'll be saying, Australia, we're going to let you know who's the next Prime Minister any minute now. We've got more votes coming in from Fairfax. And back then in 13, it's meant to be two candidates preferred, but they're actually focusing on two colours, the red and blue.
Yeah, wow.
And so they're only actually counting the red and blue tickets, which meant not every vote counted, did it? It wasn't counted. And it actually took someone to challenge that and push back so that they actually focused on the two candidates that were most preferred. And in this election, that's why it's really important that people make very clear who their first vote is. And so a lot of people talk about, freedom-friendly parties, and just any of those will do. And that's okay, that's true, but if you don't get the runs on the board in that first position and it's a strong flush of colour, of yellow strong, there is a chance that it may not actually all cluster together.
Yeah, interesting.
And we may be in the same situation as 2013. And we're going to ensure that that's not going to happen. Under the leadership of Craig Kelly, we have candidates that are very high calibre right across the country in all 151 seats. And as a result, we are all very aware of any of these kinds of issues. And we're also motivated to get the people involved so that their vote actually is counted on the night and at every election booth.
Yes, it's so great to know that this year our votes will count towards the federal election, and that UAP actually have someone in every single seat around Australia, which means that you can form government when voted in.
Authorised by Lisa Corey for the United Australia Party, Merrimack.